Good day, everyone. I'm Aradhna Pandarum, and I'm the Acting Research Group Leader in the CSIR Energy Center. My focus is on the energy industry team, which specifically zooms in on the social and economic imperatives of the just energy transition. So, in my view, a just energy transition means that nobody actually is left behind after we have transitioned. The energy transition at the moment has been just that, about the energy transition. There's very little to no importance made on the just elements of the energy transition. So, what happens to the people that are around in the communities that are around the coal fired power stations that are to be decommissioned, the coal mines that are to be decommissioned, and the reduction of economic activity within those areas? The people that are reliant on the coal mines and coal fired power stations for their economic activities and livelihoods, what happens to them? That is the question that we try to focus on. That is what we try to zoom in, looking at, especially at trying to help the country with its triple challenge of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, whilst also selecting opportunities that will have economic growth, that can actually move people towards a higher economic growth and more employment in the country. Energy technologies can do that. There are specific technologies that we can try and focus on. And if the research shows that we are actually going to lose jobs, then we need to make backup plans to actually incorporate within the energy transition plan to ensure that nobody is actually left behind. So in our team, we are specifically looking at one project that I would like to highlight at the moment, and this looks at the value chain analysis for us to identify enterprise development opportunities within the solar PV value chain as well as the battery storage value chains. It's trying to understand what elements of the value chain we can actually move towards enterprise development and new business development in the country. So, for instance, there has been always this question of why aren't we manufacturing solar panels in the country? Why aren't we manufacturing our own batteries in the country? And we are trying to get to the bottom lines of actually calculating how much it would cost us to manufacture solar PV panels and large equipment in the value chains of solar PV and battery storage, and how much that would actually cost us. Because currently we see various repurposing plans for coal-fired power stations, various other plans in Mpumalanga trying to focus on manufacturing of PV panels. And I don't think there has been any research that shows it costs us X to manufacture in South Africa. We require this type of market demand if we need to move forward. And how much then does it cost us to actually import it from China? I think what we're trying to get at is, if we look at the value chain and we are going to increase the activity within this economic sector, what does that mean for job creation and what does that mean for the socioeconomic benefits? Does it justify a higher investment for us as a country to quantify that job creation, and for us to actually move towards looking at different funding mechanisms to justify higher job creation in specific economic sectors that will not impact the electricity tariff at the end of the day? So that is what we are trying to unpack in this value chain analysis work. And it is similarly linked to another program that we actually have, which is called the Energy Industry Support Program, that is what we like to term the Just Energy Transition in Action, that focuses on SMMEs in the country, in the energy sector, tries to capacitate them in the market opportunities and business opportunities that are to be in the energy and future energy sector, and also tries to incubate some of the SMMEs to help them move from one stage in the business to another. So this information is quite linked to that program, and that is why I kind of highlighted it in this interview. In my view, there is one thing that is significantly lacking in this in the just energy transition discussion. If we look at the draft Just Energy Transition Investment Plan that is currently out for review, it says that we are going to spend 1.5 trillion rand in the next 5 years for the energy transition. specifically focusing on the decarbonization of the electricity sector and the grid that is relating to that, looking at electric vehicles and the manufacturing of electric vehicles and trying to transition our current ICE vehicles to electric vehicles and export such vehicles. And the last component is green hydrogen, which is set to have a significant impact on decarbonizing hard to abate sectors. But out of that 1.5 trillion, only 1% is actually allocated for skills development. If we look at the Independent Power Producer Procurement Program, it has been developed over 10 years now. We have been developing renewable technologies for over 10 years in the country. But if we look at the current local capacity of doing that in South Africa without external private sector investment, we can't actually do that because we don't have the skills to do it. We are importing skills to develop some of those projects and parts of the value chains. So this is why we need to significantly focus on the skills development that is required for technologies. Green hydrogen, as was mentioned, and is part of the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, requires a lot of renewables in the value chain. About 67% of the capital investment is actually for renewables. And we are not focused on the skills development for renewables, let alone the new technologies that are to be coming on board, such as offshore wind and battery storage, and at scales that we have been discussing for the requirement of decarbonization of these different sectors. So I don't think that we are prepared. And if we are not prepared, we then have the risk of having international funders and international skills that are brought into the country. And our people at the end of the day don't really have any advantages and don't really have any input in those value chains. So at the end of the day, we are then leaving people behind within the country, and we are not helping the triple challenge that we have, which is unemployment, inequality, and poverty. So our seed needs to be planted as soon as possible for skills development, and the skills development needs to be prioritized in the energy technologies that are to be installed in the different timelines that we foresee it. Green hydrogen has been spoken of quite often, as I said, but we only expect that towards the end of the 2020 period. So we are not focusing on renewables as much. We are not focusing on battery storage as much, and we need to. We need to reform the energy sector so that we are able to provide those skills. We are able to benefit from the projects that are coming and the large infrastructure investment that are coming in the country. So if we go towards the element of storage, I think there are various challenges that are brought up in the energy industry that are spoken of. One of the main challenges still remains is the price. If we looked back at various reports by IRENA, IEA, it predicted that we would have a much steeper decline in prices at this present time, rather than what we actually are experiencing. And that is something that we need to be wary of. That is a risk that is embedded in all technologies that we need to consider. But in comparison to other, what is termed base load, or other technologies such as those, conventional generation, battery storage fares much higher than the actual costs. But there is an opportunity for us to embed battery storage in the value chains, in the energy technologies and pathways that are chosen in the future, because of its services and stacked benefits that you can actually get from the storage elements. The other aspect is there are different types of energy storage that are being spoken of. There are long duration energy storage and short duration energy storage. At the moment, globally we are focusing on short duration energy storage. Everything is based on lithium ion and lithium based batteries. And that is another aspect that needs to be considered in the future, because it is a very extractive value chain and an extractive process. We still require elements that need to be mined from the ground. And that is something that can get to the point of you may not have enough to cater for the global needs. Everyone is talking about the needs for increasing battery storage in their energy plans and electricity plans for decarbonization, because energy storage does provide that decarbonized element of helping you stabilize the grid and helping you deal with the variable renewable energy that is produced during the day. You can also shift energy patterns, and as I said, you can have stacked benefits where there are other markets that are created for energy storage. But at the moment, those markets are not being created in South Africa. The market for ancillary services, for example, for reserve markets, it's not being created. It's been spoken of at the transmission system operator, and distribution in Eskom has also been speaking about it, but we haven't had the opportunity to actually introduce that, and that will drive the price down. It will drive the business case higher. So we need to focus on trying to incentivize energy storage because of its various benefits, but we also need to identify what types of energy storage will be required for different use cases. I don't think that is something that we also have been focusing on as a country, and I think that maybe there is some room for research to identify a probable energy storage roadmap that we need to pursue based on the use cases that are to be experienced for the energy technologies that we are going to bring in. This also impacts, again, the green hydrogen value chain. If we're looking at just the green hydrogen commercialization strategy, looks at a basis of about 100 gigawatts of renewables that would be required to meet some of those needs that have been identified in the commercialization strategy. 100 gigawatts of renewables adding to whatever grid we have now. At the moment, it's almost 50 or just over 50 gigawatts. That is significant capacity, and that would need battery storage or some sort of energy storage. And that will drive the business case, especially in concerns of grid constraints that we are currently having. So my main message will be energy storage and battery storage is a significant requirement due to the significant amount of renewable energy that we would require for the grid. We require the grid stability aspects and the other aspects that energy storage can actually produce. For example, the energy arbitrage function, as well as the ancillary services function, to ensure that the grid is actually stable when we have increasing renewable penetration on the grid. Trying to understand what types of energy storage would be required, how much comparison in terms of levelized cost of storage can you actually expect from the different types of energy storage, that's electrochemical as well as thermal, and the mechanical energy storage, and trying to unpack what we should do and focus on as a country from the economics perspective of increasing renewables in our energy transition, and also trying to unpack what the social benefits could actually be. If you look at battery storage, just lithium ion in itself, at the moment it's predicted that it will have more jobs created than renewables. And that is quite significant in terms of what we need to be doing, especially if we are transitioning. And it just shows that we need to consider all of these aspects holistically when we are selecting different technologies and different pathways for the energy transition to have a just energy transition.